Good morning, everybody. This thing's going home today. Of course, it's raining, so I'm inside showing you guys. Of course, John picks it up on a day when it's raining, so I'm sure we're gonna test drive it later and get a little wet, but that's okay. So everything I did to it is ready to go. It can get wet now. Yeah, so everyone saw a couple clips of this on Instagram and they seem to like it, so I figured I'd show you what we did to it. We've known John for a while now. He built this thing top to bottom. This is the first time he's paid somebody to work on it, except for Josh. Josh did the gears in it, I think, once for him, or twice. Rock bouncer stuff. But yeah, we've known him for a long time. He's been, he put this whole thing together. And actually, that's how long we've known him. You may recognize some of those parts. I think this is the last time this truck was out. See, you can see why maybe that was the last time the truck was out. That's at our old rock crawler event that we used to do at McCrae's farm called Truck Fest. That was a fun one. That crash wasn't a fun one, but it was a fun event. But now he has this, so that's cool. It worked out. So John posted on Facebook asking if anyone was good with wiring, specifically GM wiring. I spent a lot of time at the dealership diagnosing crazy stuff. I worked at a Chevy dealership. Josh has a very similar powertrain, LS and whatnot. Dave's a wizard that works here, so I was like, bring that thing down, and we'll take a look at it. He had already checked injectors, wiring, vacuum leaks, anything you could think of. It was down to, I need an extra set of eyeballs on this thing. And what was happening was bank 2 was the short-term fuel trim was going way up to like 50%. I saw it once or twice when I was diagnosing it. So something was definitely wrong, and he had checked everything. So like I said, it was just time for an extra set of eyes. So it showed up here. The first thing I did was it had a cut down truck harness. So I went through that thing. I opened the whole thing up. I found a bunch of bad grounds, bad splices, corrosion, this, that, the other thing. It's an old truck harness. It starts out old, and then you do something to it, and you beat it up, and it gets even worse. So it improved things. So there was definitely some bad grounds and signals and readings of sensors, but it was definitely leading me in the wrong direction. So Dave hooked up HP tuners to it and checked the tune. Everything looked pretty normal. It does have a pretty big cam in it, but whatever, it looked pretty normal. So the next thing was Josh's Jeep was over there. We were prepping it for a race or something like that. So tried his ECU, and which the tune's a little bit different. This cam is a little bigger than Josh's, I think. But it actually idled better and stuff. So that just tells me this tune needs adjustment, but we'll get to that later. So that didn't do it. So then I just started wasting time on this thing. It's obviously a freak issue. There's no vacuum leaks, the injector, all that stuff, pulse width, everything was normal. So, I was thinking about, this I was leaning out, and I was thinking about sensors and readings, and I was looking at how short these were in relation to where the sensor was, and I was like, oh, maybe there's turbulence going up in there, I don't know if turbulence is the right word for that, but just fresh air making its way back up into the exhaust, just because it has like I said, a pretty big cam in it. And getting on the sensor and throwing off the readings. So this is that Instagram clip that everyone was liking about this thing. I vice gripped a piece of sheet metal over the end just to give it some back pressure and see if I got a more consistent reading. And it worked. So it was actually that side though. So when I blocked that side, this side leveled out. I didn't know what was up with that, but I knew my theory was right. So that's when I welded on this little 45, and just to add some length to it, And so what I got from that was it got consistent. So before the fuel trim would creep up, 10%, 15%, 30%, and it just wouldn't come back down, especially as it warmed up. Now it stayed. It was still different, but it just stayed. It was like 16% when bank 1 was at 0, just idling. So I knew I was onto something. It wasn't fixed yet though. So we welded, the 45s on both sides, got that all taken care of. And then, these are homemade headers. So I was like, maybe there's a chunk of something up in there. Who knows, right? At this point, everything's been checked. We have to start looking for freak things, So I took my borescope and stuck it up in there, and on this side, I was trying to get up here, but before I even got up to these, I noticed that the O2 sensor on this side, you can't see it, it's on the back side here, but the O2 sensor was all the way up here. It's right here on the collector, and it was directly in front of just one of the primaries. It didn't even have an opportunity to pick up the rest of this. So that was like weird. The other side was still this high, but it was more center, so like more than one was hitting it. We did some calling around some of our car friends, and they're like, yeah, you need like 18 inches after the sensor, and you definitely want it like a little bit ways away from the collector, So what we did was we blocked up this one and welded in another one literally like right here. But, that's far enough away that as the collector is here and the gas kind of combines, it gives it an accurate reading. Plus, it still has all of this. So once I did that, it got completely leveled out. Perfect. Yeah. So that was an interesting finding. I can't even believe I found it by clamping on a piece of sheet metal on the exhaust. I mean, talk about trying everything. So the whole reason this came here, the whole reason he's trying to really dial in how it was running was because he wanted to install nitrous. He got nitrous off another bouncer friend of his, and thought it was time to run it. So now that the tune issue was solved, we can install the nitrous. But that truck harness that was in here, whatever, like I got it to work, but when you're running nitrous, you are cramming more fuel and more air into this thing, and you really need it to be like set up perfect. You can't have a lot of variables, So, I talked to John and just told him like, this harness is going to keep giving you issues forever. It's just an old harness, it's got all these splices in it. It's cut down. Let's do a new harness. So we did a pre-made harness from PSI Conversions. Yeah, I mean, for the money, you just really can't beat it. And it's brand new, it has a warranty, it's beautiful. So we put that in there. And then we hooked up the nitrous kit. And then to control everything, instead of a bunch of toggle switches and whatnot that were here, and like relays and stuff, we went with a Switch Pro, an 8-circuit Switch Pro. Josh whipped up this firewall. Can you see it? Yeah, you can't really see it. Josh made a new aluminum firewall for this thing, and on the back side of it, we mounted the S-Pod. In the middle is the ECU. I made this little pedestal for the controller, and we like moved over the shifter a little bit. It was a little bit more square on this thing. There was a giant hole right here. Filled that in the best I could. Not about a guy though, And on the other side is all the nitrous stuff. This is the timing retarder. It's like an inline unit that changes the timing of the coil packs. That's the window switch. That's the OBD2 port for the ECU. That is the fuse block that comes on the PSI Conversions harness. Put a little power stud there to, from the kill switch, so we can run all the stuff off of that safely. That relay right there is for the nitrous solenoids, which is activated by the window switch. So, yeah, nitrous, brand new wiring, front to back in this thing. It's pretty cool. The Switch Pro, I think it has more features than I even know about still. But, you know, a couple of cool things is it can either be triggered to turn on by battery power, so the moment you turn this kill switch on, or it can be triggered by ignition. So if you have like a Jeep or something, you still have a key and whatnot. This is the way John used to turn his ECU on, and he said he liked that, to be able to, like, if he rolled, he could just reach over and like flip this instead of try to kill that. So I kept this as the ignition on, and one of the cool features, so, you know, it's triggered by ignition on, and it has memory function. So whatever you left on when you turned it off, lights, whatever, fuel, fan, when you turn it off, I have these two set to memory. So even if you had your nitrous, your lights, like for example, I just had the lights on, when you key this back on, just the fuel and the fan turn on. So I only have these two set to memory, but you can do a bunch if you want other things to turn on when the ignition's on this thing. Like an Ultra 4 car or something needs to have like the safety lights in the back and whatnot. But for this thing, fuel and fan, that's all it really needs. And then, so these are all circuit breakers, and these little indicator lights will turn a different color when it breaks the circuit, and then you can just reset it. But, you know, this is on memory, so when you turn it on, you have fuel and fan, but then you can just turn it off if you want to. It's pretty cool. There's so many features with this thing. But yeah, now it's nice and simple for John. You just flick this thing and hit the start button. Never mind. So I messed up the memory function there. So I turned them on, then I killed it. Now the memory is going to remember that. Now they're going to turn on. Hey, and then you just start it. That's it. So John's gonna take this back. It's going to head to the dyno, get this tune dialed in, and yeah, I hope he's stoked with it and hope to see it at some events this year. Thanks for watching.